Hello YouTube family, James Green, Short Series Shenanigans. So, this is going to be part one of a multi-part series, and it's going to be titled the Marvel Schebler Carburetor Repair. Now, I've talked about this in another video in the past. This is by a viewer, and he sent it in, and I've talked about this before, okay? This was busted. Now, a lot of these back then, because this carburetor's, I don't know exactly the model, but this Marvel Schebler carburetor, these style were used from 1955. Well, I want to probably even say earlier than that, probably the 30s, okay, up until I want to say the late 80s, probably early to mid-late 80s. They've been on a myriad of things. Matter of fact, that trencher video that I did, or the boring of the gear that I did on the Bridget the other day, it has one of these on it, and it suffered the same problem, which was basically when they got loose, instead of, and depending on when this started leaking, okay, Teflon tape hasn't always been around. The thought process of, well, just tighten it up so it'll quit leaking. Well, what would happen is people would over tighten this, and you would end up splitting this out. Now, I did some basic lapping in, okay, got that to where it's nice and smooth, and we can still see the wetness, you know, and we've got a real nice smooth surface there. Don't know if it'll show up on camera, but that's really good. We went in here and just very, very lightly touched up with 600 grit sandpaper, just so we had a nice smooth contact surface. Typically what happens is this here, okay, someone used some steel putty to make a repair, and which is common, you know. People would over tighten the brass fitting, and what this does is, this is 1/8 inch national pipe thread, which is 8 by 27 thread per inch, and it's somewhat of a taper, yes, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to recreate this fitting, and what I'm going to actually do is make this a lot longer than what it is. And this comes from personal experience. A old machinist years ago did this initial type of repair and showed me, if you ever run across it, this is how to fix it, because when you go, we're going to braze it up in here, the whole 9 yards, and this end actually has the ferruled end fitting, whether it's copper or steel pipe, has a ferrule. You go in there and you tighten the nut down and it swells up. So what you actually do is you make this part, you remake this whole thing, and we're going to do that in this video series, and you make this longer. Yes, it's not going to be all the correct taper, but we're not relying on just the fit and the correct, exact, perfect taper to fit things up, okay, because we've already went in with a tap just to kind of clear the threads out and see what damage is in there. Now, obviously we can see where the repair is. All that's going to come out, okay? And in the process, I know it's not going to show up on camera, but in this area up in here, it's also split back just about as far as you see this. So what he did, and he showed me, and I've done it on every one since then, and I haven't had a problem. But we're going to use Teflon tape, a sealant of some sort, so when we put the new brass fitting in that we're making, that's going to be longer here, because you do want to be able, and the thought process behind it is, okay, we're going to dig out all this old stuff, we're going to Dremel it out, I'll do that on camera, and we want to be able to go down deeper into here, okay? So it's giving it a deeper place to grab onto. So we have quite a bit to remove out of here, and I am going to have to go in on this because it's cracked all the way through. And this is one of those deals, you just, as you get into it, you got to pull the eye face shield off, get in there and look with your magnifying loupe that I've got, my Optivisor. That was the only way I was able to see the crack. It won't show up on camera and I can see it, so there will be a separate video where I make this fitting, and I'm going to remake it out of brass, obviously. And we'll follow the dimensions here so that we know that this fits correct. And essentially, we're just going to make this about as twice as long as what it is. And yes, there's plenty of room for it to fit way back in there. Okay, and as you can see, the damaged portion is about as long as what's broke out. Okay, so we want to be able to reach past that. Now, we are going to heat this up and braze it in. We also ordered in, because I did not have a large enough piece, graphite rod, some 1/2-inch graphite rod. I've got a lot of small sizes, the 3/8 on down. I did have some, I don't know what happened to them, because I do use a lot of these on the 3/8 side for stirring when I'm working with my heat treating oven and doing melting and doing assay work. Okay, yes, I dabble in stuff like that from time to time, and so those rods I use specifically for when you're melting copper, stir it with a graphite rod, or you're stirring silver or gold or anything like that, use a graphite rod to help remove impurities. So there are other uses for them than just, we're going to turn it down and create a backer. Okay, and that we'll do that whenever we're doing this other stuff when we're doing a lathe video, and we'll turn it down to where it fits really deep in there, and we're going to get it fit to where it fits nice, because this is going to be our shelf that we weld up against. So we will go ahead and get started. Now, little noise warning, I'm going to be using my air die grinder, and this is a NSK Impulse NSP-601A. It's made in Japan. These are handy little air die grinders. I'll go ahead and show you guys, because I know everybody on the camera wants to know what model tool those are. Okay, this is not the cheap import version, and they're actually pretty quiet. Now, I know the air compressor is going to turn on. That's a given. Kind of quiet. Matter of fact, go ahead and move this out of the way so it doesn't get too, there we go. Alright, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to be using a teardrop carbide tip in here, and we're just going to go in and just eat all this stuff out and get it prepped and ready. So, a noise warning for all you viewers out there. I know some of you guys like to play videos on fast forward, that's cool. Others, noise warnings, fixed to get warning, and I'm sure the compressor will kick on. So if you want to turn this, turn the volume down warning there so it doesn't blast you out. I know at times when I'm watching videos I don't expect certain noises. So there you go. You've had your noise warning. So here we go. I want to show you guys something real quick. Blow this off here if I get my chair straight. There we go. You guys can see the that's that steel putty. That stuff's actually pretty good as far as holding stuff together to keep it from leaking. keep the dust down to a minimum in the garage if possible. Alright. You can see somewhat in here, and I wanted to show you before I ground it away. And I don't know how well the camera will pick it up. I'll try to show you guys to see if the camera will, if it'll focus. I figured out if you put your hands behind the camera on these Canon cameras, or the home movie cameras is what I call them, because that's essentially what it is. It focuses in better on whatever's in front of you here, so you guys can see where it actually began to rust in behind that steel putty. Okay, and I call it the steel. It's the two-part epoxy where you have the white, the black, and you sit there and knead them together, and they become gray. And then this stuff actually gets pretty hard. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove some more. It won't take a whole lot, but again, you know, I want to show all this neat stuff. So this actually belongs to Gene Schaefer. He has a YouTube channel. It is small. He only has like, I think, less than a dozen videos or whatever, and he did a really neat series on a mini lathe. He actually purchased that for me. It was a benchtop lathe I had years and years ago. But so anyway, he reached out to me, said, "Hey, can you help?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, send it on over." So this is a hook a fellow YouTuber up type deal is what this is, and it's good content. And I know there's a lot of these out here that need stuff like this. So here we go. Air hook back up here. All right, and away we go. Try to get you guys in on it here a little bit. Let the air keep running here. I'm going to switch over and I'm going to put my magnifying loop on, my optivisor, because I've got to be able to see where that crack goes as I remove everything. Alright, I know that was pretty noisy, guys. But we were able to finally get through. And I know some of you have probably, man, that was noisy. But I get to show you, you know, I want to show you this on camera and getting up in here. Now, what I was able to determine was, and it's always good to have a little extra light on things here, just to make sure. When I was working on this portion back here, grinding that second area out, okay, which is in there, I had to go all the way through, and a little bit may go ahead and show up when I heat it up, but you have to get all of the crack out. As I was going through grinding on it, so if you guys go to do this yourself, and one of the telltale signs I was able to follow, and it helps having the Optivisor doing this. One way I was able to help chase the crack, and you know, we took the big piece out where the epoxy was, and we started cleaning, and I'm going to do some more off camera, cleaning the rough cast surface off the outside. And as soon as you did, I could see where this crack even went back further on the top here and chased it. Now, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to heat this up a little bit. This is before I do the preheat, before I weld, but I'm just going to heat it up and look for any further, and I'll do this off camera because I don't want to waste a bunch of your time just listening to, you know, excuse me, an air die grinder and a compressor running. But basically right there, I wanted to illustrate this. I have repaired these before. There's a method to the madness. Everybody has their own way of doing things. But what the next step will be is, because I want to clean a lot of this surface off, so when I go to lay my braze in, because we're going to oxy-acetylene weld this, okay, with brass and flux, the good old-fashioned heat the rod up, dip it in flux, and do the whole 9 yards and all that. So in the process of doing that, I may have to go ahead and pull that plug because it'll probably get too hot. These might get loose, which we can fix that. And then there's a small, I don't know, and now what I'm going to do, there's a small jet in there. Now, you can tell someone has already tried to pull it out. I know from previous experience, you can almost not ever get those out. So what I'm going to do, actually that's the air idle mixture. And then there's the jet there, because here's the air idle screw where it goes in right there. Okay, that's, so, because that may get too hot during the process, what I'm going to prepare myself. So if something were to happen and I do get that too hot, or it falls out or happens, which I don't plan on it, but what I'm going to do is, that's when it's good to go with your pin gauges ahead of time. Measure the size of that jet. So if I have to recreate that jet, which it's just brass, but still, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to figure out what the diameter of that little jet in there is, so that I know, hey, if in the process of trying to fix this, I create, because trust me, these little things, this can be like chase your tail. And some people say, oh, we'll just go get another one. Well, there's a myriad of combinations of these. And this was number one. Hey, someone asked for help. I'm the type of guy, I'll help them out. You know, you walk into a job shop, they'd laugh at you. Go buy another one is what they'd tell you. I look at it different like that. So, great video. So, and also that way, if you guys want to do this stuff on your own, hopefully I will create a pattern or a footprint for you guys to follow. I know Keith Finner has done a ton of videos on working on cast iron and brazing up repairs. This is going to be at the other end of the spectrum where it's small. And so if you're like working on a vintage vehicle or a piece of equipment that has the 1-barrel Marvel Schebler, these were on a lot of different vehicles. These were on 8N and 9N Ford tractors. V 4-cylinder, yes, I mean V as in V-shaped 4-cylinder air-cooled Wisconsin engines. It's like what's on the trencher out at the ranch. So I've had to do one similar to, you know, that on this. Did it years ago and it's held ever since. It was just because someone got carried away and over tightened. Remember guys, this problem 99.99% of the time is because someone, well, if it's leaking, well, just tighten it up even more, and then it just mushrooms in and breaks. Or you happen to have the carburetor, you take it off and you drop it and it lands on it. And so there you go. So there's part 1 installment of the Marvel Schebler carburetor repair, and I'm going to do more grinding and stuff off camera. The next step you guys will see me do is when we're doing lathe work, and that'll be turning our graphite rod down. And then we're also going to go ahead and make, while we're doing on the lathe, we're going to go ahead and make a fitting, and we're going to single point that, okay? And I'll explain why in the other video. So there you go. Lots of neat stuff. If you have optivisors, use them. What I was going to say and reiterate was, as you're going in there with your Dremel and you see rust appearing, the crack, you'll see rust just follow the rust. That's where the crack is. You got to get it all out, because if you don't, it's going to leak. You got to go all the way through and you got to remove all of the crack, because we're going to fill it back in with brass. And so prep your surface, get it smooth. I'm going to even heat it up, because sometimes you heat that up, sometimes other cracks will appear that you don't see, and I'm just going to heat it up with a MAP gas torch, you know, and I'll do that off camera, you know, but that will be the same area. You know, we want to make sure we get all those out, because when we go to fix this, it's going to be done oxy-acetylene weld, and we'll do all that on camera. So there you go, part 1 of the Marvel Schebler carburetor repair, courtesy of Gene Shearer. Thanks, Gene. So, as I always say, you guys want to look me up on social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. It's EagleDustOff37, or at EagleDustOff37 is my Twitter handle. There you go. Public email address, EagleDustOff37@gmail.com. See you guys out there at the Summer Bash. We're getting all stoked. Hopefully we'll get this knocked out here in the next day or two, and we'll get it headed back to you real shortly there, Gene. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourself and take care of family, because you know what? At the end of the day, family's all you got. Get out in the shop and make stuff. Fix some carburetors. This stuff's fun. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.